I've got the Terminator pulled apart for the most part, and then gonna work on pulling the motor out here in the next day or so. So keep forgetting to do some recording, and every time I do this, I get busy, start working, and completely forget to even try to do anything. So I'll try and do better this next time and keep an eye on it. Someone broke a pulley puller off in the end of it, so that ought to be fun. But we'll get to that when we get to it. Alright, so still working on pulling this mod motor out, whatever you want to call it. Hold on to it. Got everything on the top out. I'm just gonna pull the front off and pull the heads off, then pull the motor out. So it'd be easier to take off fucking 3 feet on each side of head, you know. These heads are fucking a million feet wide. So I started on that, and then someone has broken off a press style, like a pulley puller remover for like a power steering pump, like the one you put in the middle and they clamp on and pull out. It looks like they tried to thread it in and force it in. I don't know, but they've, in the midst of doing that, somehow broken off the head of that thing, pressed into the center of the blower pulley. Luckily, he's already sent me this. Trip on WD-40. Sent me this beautiful piece of billetness here. So it's going to get this pulley swapped out. So plan is just go ahead and pull the whole motor out, and by looking around, it looks like it's going to be a lot easier to just pull motor and tranny than to pull the motor off the tranny and then try and fish it back down onto the tranny and into the motor mounts. So I'll probably pull everything all out at once, just try and make things a little bit easier. I don't know how much easier that will be, but we will find out, I guess. So I'm gonna pull all of that out. So I'm working on getting the headers loose. So I've got all the bolts on top and all but like one on the bottom you can't reach. These things are a fucking pain in the ass, and this is a good reminder of why I don't own a Ford motor. They're good motors, don't get me wrong, but they've got their perks and they got their fucking shittiness. So yeah, that's one of the shittinesses. His headers on this thing, like that side there's no room to get to shit, and this side, 2 or 3 of the bolts are touching the header, the studs are, so by the time you get the nut off of it, it's like against it, so you've got to take the nut off while you're taking the header off to get the nut out, and you've got to feed it up at the same time that you're, pushing it up. So I'll get the motor out. I couldn't get the motor to sit still. I have one of those chain wrenches right there, which come in handy. So instead of putting the 14mm in the end and getting it loose, I tried putting a 6th gear and pulling the fucking parking brake. I tried, and I put that pipe on, get some leverage, but it's turning the motor over still, and it's still turning the fucking tires. So it is what it is. I'll pull the whole motor out, detach it from the tranny, and then I'll use something to hold the flywheel itself in place, and then I'll take that piece and bust that loose and put some heat on it. But we'll do it when we get it out. There's not a whole lot of room in there to work with it, so it is what it is. I don't know who tried to get in this thing before. He said it had head gaskets done in Virginia, but man, if this thing had head gaskets done, they were in a fucking hurry, bro. Everything looked, and then they had head gaskets done. He literally drove from wherever he got it done in Virginia and started his way back to North Carolina, and it started knocking, not long into the drive. I don't even think he was out of Virginia. I think he was still in Virginia when it started hammering, and he had it towed the rest of the way. So, I mean, I doubt and really don't think they did one, but who knows? They could have just been in a hurry and just boom, boom, and flapped it back together real quick, and didn't clean anything up. I mean, hell, they left an O-ring right there getting squished under the intake gasket. There's a bunch of little stuff like that I found that looks like someone just not paying attention or giving a shit. A lot of the harness is just kind of hanging out, not where it's supposed to be. The usual bullshit. someone else, you know, works on a car, and I gotta fix it now. Fix all the fuck up. So yeah, so that's where we're at. I gotta work the next 2 days. I'm pretty sure Wednesday's an extra day, so I got Thursday only off until next week. So I'll try and work on it some Thursday. Get the rest of the header bolts. Maybe go inside and get ready and get cleaned up and get dinner made for tomorrow for work for the next 2 days. So yeah, Thursday I'll get back at it and see what I can knock out. See if I can get the headers the rest of the way out. It's an hour job just getting those fucking nuts off and the studs. And then I'll work on taking the drive shaft out, pulling the harness off the tranny, and pretty much getting ready to just bop those motor mount bolts loose and let this old girl up out. Alright, so started slowly tearing this thing apart. I'm sorry for the glare, fucked up my phone. But started to take the timing and stuff loose. Get ready to pull the tensioners off. Once I get the tensioners off, pull this chain off. I'll probably leave these sprockets on the heads because you can pull the heads without having to take the cams on this. So I will just pull these chains off, pull the heads off, and we can start looking at the bottom end. So we'll start. Pull this one off, pull that one off, which they're already loose. I can just slide these off and kind of keep them in order somewhat. So I'm gonna set this over here in the pile. So I'll start zapping some stuff away. You know, more baggies somewhere. It's covered in oil. My phone ain't no good to keep dropping the motherfucker. Try and always keep this stuff in some sort of particular order. It won't be reused, but if I need to go back and look at something, I can. It's no big deal if I need something, I can go look at it. How it was on the old timing set. Took plenty of pictures. So crank pulley off. Right there. That's that. I can pull the heads off now. You can see there was one spot somewhere on a cam lobe that looked kind of rough. I was kind of worried about. This thing sat and had some rust for a little while or something. see, he's got some spots there. Spots there. None there. It's like this whole cantaloupe wasn't happening. The other ones don't have none of that stuff, really, a little bit there. For the most part, there's not much anywhere else. So, then pull the heads off. So, I'll come back and we'll check in again here in a second. the gaps themselves. It broke a piston ring on one of these. This one didn't break a ring, it just squeezed one into itself. As you can tell, the chewed itself up pretty good. Bearing don't look ridiculous. This is the one with the giant gap. I mean, that you ain't gonna close that gap up. So I'm gonna guess somewhere along the lines they had broken a ring and just forced it down in and sent it. This one, they had put the rings together, which is a no-no. You don't put rings, the gaps together like that. This one's really close. Too close in my opinion. Also, another one, gap on top of each other. Too close. It's like these things are just packed with junk. And I mean, this motor, it's like they drop these pistons and shit in the dirt and the mud. Once again, rings also together. And the bearings don't look amazing, but they don't look fucking bad. Clean this one up, let's check it out. To gouge in it. Clean up some of these bearings and see what they look like real quick. We got the GTP supercharger oil and gasket in, so while I'm waiting on parts for this, start that project. Get that thing off ported, blower ported. Just clean it up basically. Got to order an isolator bushing, but I don't think I did. Probably should have. Also wanted to do a smaller pulley, but did not allow. With the budget right now, just kind of need it on the road. This is the one that's where we're bearing up the worst. Yeah, shit, look too good, and that's also the one that's apparently had the bearing beat into it so much that it just won't even stay.